Okay, so today I am talking about margin, about profit margin, and about making money reselling products to clients. I'm going to share with you the top performing or the best products, the products with the best margin in our industry as of today, and why and how you can make money off of reselling these products to your clients. So let's dive into the episode.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Okay, so why should you resell product to clients? This is something I talk about at in depth, at length, inside Power of Process. It's a real integral part of my implementation phase. I talk about this inside module 4. So if you're a POP alumni, go check out the newly revamped Power of Process. Module 4 is all about this. But in short, you can resell products to clients, sofas, lighting, millwork. There are 3 reasons why I recommend you do it. 1, you can control the timeline, meaning that you are the person placing the order. And so you don't have to worry about potentially the contractor ordering it too late or the client forgetting to order something. You can control when things arrive to make sure that the project runs smoothly. 2, you can minimize substitutions. How many times have you spec'd a product and the contractor is like, yep, great, I'll order the hardware, the door hardware, and 4 months into the project, it's time to install the door hardware, and they go to place the order. They're asking questions for verification. Turns out, oh, they don't have that finish anymore, or yep, they don't have enough. We're going to have to reselect. It happens with tile. It happens with plumbing, because oftentimes, especially in residential design, contractors are very reactionary. They're not planning ahead. Some do, but a lot of them do not. And so you might spec something, doors, for example, but the contractor is not really paying attention to that at that moment because they're more focused on the demo, getting the trades lined up. They're not focused on ordering. And then ultimately you end up having to substitute and compromise on your design, or even incur more money to the client because they have to pay a rush fee or something like that. The 3rd reason I highly recommend you resell products to clients, and this is probably the biggest reason in my opinion, is that you can maximize your profitability. You can make more money. That's what I mean. I'm telling you, you can make more money. If you guys are curious a little bit more about how to make money on these projects and what does project profitability look like, you should go check out episode 96 of the podcast. That's called Know Your Numbers, Project Profitability. We do walk you through sort of like an accounting 101 with my operations manager, Marilee Wright. Please go check that episode out. It's a really good one. That's episode 96. But in a nutshell, you can control the timeline, you can minimize any substitutions, and then you can maximize your profit margin. And that's what we are here to talk about today. Because when you are reselling a product to a client, and you need a license for this, it's called a business license or a reseller's license, which in Ontario would be like your HST number. You need to have that. But that allows you to increase the amount of money that you bring into your company. But for those of you who are like, I don't understand the term profit margin, what does that mean? Don't sweat it. I'll tell you what it is. Essentially, a margin is the difference between the price at which a product is sold and the cost associated with making or selling that product. That's also known as COGS, or cost of goods sold. We're not going to go into those technical terms. They're in that episode that I told you about, episode 96, but essentially it's the difference. So for example, you have a table lamp, it costs you $200. The client price is $240. Your margin is $40 or 20%. That is your margin, and that is money that I believe you should keep. So The reason I believe you should keep this money is because running a small business is expensive. It's hard to make money unless you are charging so much money for your design fee, which chances are most of you are not. It's not like you're rolling in the hundos, right? You need every revenue stream you can get in your business. It covers you for the times that you underbill for your hours, right? You're discounting your hours. Or maybe you didn't charge enough for that fixed fee. Or maybe there's an expense that comes up that you couldn't have anticipated. Like you need to replace your computers in your office because they're all outdated and they don't have the memory you need. Or maybe someone on your team makes a mistake, God forbid. Maybe you order the wrong fixture in the wrong color and the supplier won't let you return it. You're stuck with that $500 fixture. This is where you need the margin to cover all that overhead in your business. Sometimes there's things that we do inside our business as well that's not billable to clients, right? It could be a team outing. It could be an internal accounting meeting. It could be a million different things. You need that margin for your business. And just because you don't share your discounts, which is essentially what I'm proposing here, it doesn't mean you are taking advantage of the client. It does not mean you're double dipping. So please, can we dispel that myth? Get that terminology out of your head. Double dipping is not what you're doing here. You have two streams of revenue. This is how you do your business. This is how you run a profitable business. I recommend that you purchase all of the products for your clients and you mark everything up by a minimum of 20%. Most people are not doing that. They're maybe splitting their discounts, like, oh, I'll give them 10 and I'll keep 10. And I know I was there. I used to do that. Minimum 20%. You could do a cost plus 20 model if you want. I did that for a while where I told my clients, I'm super transparent. I only will bill you everything at cost plus 20%. But what that means is if I find something on sale, I'm still adding 20%. Or what that means is if I have to buy something at a retail store, it's going to be plus 20%. So let me shop from my trade vendors and wholesalers. I really recommend you do not share those discounts with your clients. And I also discourage you from letting clients use their credit card for purchases. I mean, you're undoing the whole thing. If they're then seeing the true cost and then they get irritated, or if they're the ones having to deal with all the transactions, that's not full service if that's what your goal is. Also, you deserve those travel points. You're the one working for it. Sorry, it's just how I feel. You've probably heard me share in one of my masterclasses or even inside Power of Process about one of our fantastic alumni. In fact, heck, you've heard it here first on the podcast where Jocelyn Pulse of August Olive Interiors in Connecticut, she shared here on the podcast how before she took Power of Process and sort of landed into my world in the podcast, she was giving away all her discounts. So she sold her clients everything at cost. She didn't mark anything up. And then she what's it called? She drank the Kool-Aid, Jocelyn, if you're listening, love it. And was like, no, I am not going to leave that money on the table. And she changed her method of business and she started, properly running the business so that she could have that additional revenue stream. But what she did do is look back and determine and calculate, which I can't believe she did, but good for her for doing it. She calculated how much money she'd left on the table the year prior. She's like, okay, so here were all the discounts that I could have kept. What would that amount to? And you know what that amounted to? Over $30,000. So my question to you is, imagine you had that extra $30,000 in your business. What would you do with it? You could hire an assistant. You could invest in marketing. You could pay yourself more so you could go on that family vacation or 2 family vacations or 3. This is how I feel. This is my experience. I've done it all the ways. It's the one that works the best for me. Of course, you need to ensure that you're transparent with your clients and you're not telling them that you give them cost and then charging them retail. That is a complete no-no. And I want you to run your business with integrity. So this is why I think it's important to have sort of a backup statement. If someone says, do you share your discounts? Why not? You need to be prepared with something to say. And I did record another podcast about pricing your services where I talked about this as kind of a client objection. But essentially, my line that I share to all my students inside Power of Process and inside Designer's Room is I tell clients if they ask, which it's super rare. No one ever asks anymore. But I say, honestly, truthfully, I used to do that. I used to share my discounts. In fact, I used to split them with my clients. But ultimately, I found that it wasn't a profitable business model. There's so many nuances to running a small business. And that was an additional revenue stream that's helped keep our business afloat through these hard times. People are not wanting to put you out of business. You can come up with your own rebuttal, if you will, to that question. It doesn't have to be what I say, but come up with something so that you don't feel pressured or bullied into sharing discounts, because the last thing I want for you is to make less money or to go out of business or feel frustrated or feel like you're working for nothing. It doesn't serve any of us. Okay, I want to dive into the best margins in the industry, because if you're on board and you're like, yes, I'm doing this, you might be a bit nervous about managing exchanges, managing warranties. Don't sweat it. You just have to make sure your contract is super clear and details who's responsible for the warranties and the exchanges. I say that we are subject to the policies of our suppliers and vendors. And so any warranties are those that are offered by that vendor or supplier, and that Rebecca Hay Designs is not responsible for those warranties. Same thing with exchanges. I'm super clear in my contract about how an exchange process works, and that we are subject again to the return policies of our suppliers, and that any custom orders are non-refundable and non-returnable. I walk people through the contract upfront. They know and they understand it. Okay, so let's dive into, you're doing this now. You're like, yes, I'm ready to make more money today in my business without having to bring on 10 new design clients. So the products with the best margins, and I've talked about this here before, but I'm going to say it again, are mostly for the decorators. Yes, there's money in decorating, guys. There's the prestige of being the interior designer, designing the floor plans and the hard materials and the millwork. And I love that side. But there's a lot more money in the decor. So if you get to do both, awesome. But if you just do one, and if you like decorating, now you have to like it. Not just decorating, I'm going to share one area that is not necessarily decorating related. So let's dive in. These are the top 4 that I have seen from my experience that are the best margins in our industry. The first one being fabric. The absolute best margin is fabric. Fabric has 100% markup, or a 50% discount, if you want to call it that way, meaning that if you buy fabric that is at your cost, $100 a yard, the retail or the client price is $200. This seems crazy, right? Oh my gosh, that's such a crazy. I'm going to share some of that with my client. That's crazy. They shouldn't have to pay that. That's nuts. How many headaches have you experienced? And if you haven't experienced them yet, I can tell you there are a lot of headaches that can come and that are associated with working with fabric. In fact, a lot of designers shy away from doing it because they feel like they don't understand it, and it makes them nervous. Understanding if you're ordering the right, calculating how much you need, what repeats are there. Then once you get the fabric, making sure that it was enough. What if there's an issue with the fabric? You have to go to the workroom and you have to deal with the time of looking at this fabric has there's like a wonky thread in the middle of it. So now can you contact the fabric supplier and we're going to order a replacement and da-da-da-da. Or this sofa started to pill. Now I need to deal. There's a lot of time, though many of us sort of don't think about or don't really pay that much attention to when it comes to working with fabric, because oftentimes it's for drapery or custom furniture. I recommend you sell fabric at the full retail price. This is going to be a controversial episode. Okay. The second product with the best margin in our industry that I have seen is wholesale case goods. So Unfortunately, not all Canadians have great access to wholesalers. There are some, though, that you can order from directly, like Sunpan, for example, like Reemka, like Flow Decor for lighting. Like there are some that you can directly order wholesale and you don't have to worry about the duties and the shipping. The big challenge going across border is you often have to then pay for the duties and get a receiver and a broker, and that eats into your margin. But many of you don't have to worry about that because you're in the US of A. And there are such great companies available to you to order wholesale. If you're not sure who they are, go to High Point Market. I swear, let's find a time. We're all going to go together. I'm going to do an event. We're going to have a blast. We'll do Resilient by Design does High Point. How does that sound? And you're going to make those connections with the vendors of the companies that have the products that you love. And you can start to order directly from them so you don't have to go to a little retail shop. Support your retailers, yes. Or work with a retailer that you love to work with and have a conversation with the owner and say, listen, I bring you a lot of business. I want to continue this partnership. Can we find a way to basically get me a better price? Because I'm going to continue to bring projects your way. And I've had this coaching conversation with designers in our community, inside Designers Room, who do use the same retailers over and over again in smaller towns. And I said, why don't you approach the owner? This is a partnership now. You should be getting more than 15% or 20%. So wholesale case goods. The third product with the best margin is millwork and cabinetry. And this is the one that really lends itself to decorating and design, so to decor and design, because you can do, if you're doing all the hard finishes, when you're remodeling or building, you can supply the millwork, but then also when you're decorating, you can supply the millwork. This is a controversial one. A lot of designers don't want the responsibility of millwork because it is affixed to the wall. There's a lot of coordination with the contractor. But I think if you find the right companies to work with, this can be a really great revenue source for you. What I will say about that is oftentimes there's not a lot of margin in millwork, meaning you don't necessarily get a drastically better price than the public. And if you found someone who does do that for you, amazing, hold on to them. But because it's typically a high ticket item, even if it's only marked up by a small percentage, it's a high ticket. And if there's a lot of volume in a home, say you're doing $200,000 of millwork, 10% of 200,000 is still a good chunk of change. And so I think there's a real opportunity. What I also like about supplying millwork and cabinetry is we really can be involved in the nitty-gritty of those design choices and making sure that that kitchen is designed just so, and decisions aren't being made without our involvement, because oftentimes custom millwork is really what's going to elevate the look of a space. Okay. And then number 4 product, I feel like this episode is going to be controversial. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm like, this is how I feel. And if I have clients who are listening, I hope you can appreciate that we are able to run our business this way so that we can give you the best freaking experience and the best quality. Like that's what you want. And that's what every luxury design firm is doing in order to fully service their clients. I can't afford a senior designer, a full-time administrator, an AutoCAD draftsperson, a project manager if I am not maximizing the profit in my business. I can't deliver that level of service. Okay. Last item is custom furniture. Custom furniture is amazing because not only is it completely unique to your client, easy to sell because nobody else has anything like it, quite often you can get it made at a price that is far less than the retail of something similar. And you can then mark it up and still be competitive and affordable for your client. The custom furniture route has been our go-to. And I think especially in Toronto, anyhow, we have a lot of really great tradespeople, a lot of really great craftsmen who are able to really make anything and make it beautiful. Whereas maybe in some other parts of the world, you don't have the same access. And maybe for Canada, because we don't have access to those wholesale case goods as readily, A lot of us have turned to custom, but I do think regardless, if you can find people to make things custom for you, I mean, there's no comp. There's no comparable to that custom coffee table that you can't buy that in a store. That burled oak with a shelf with a specific stain, the exact size that fits your client's living room. And realistically, you could probably resell it to your client at the same price of something similar in a retail store. And you are getting it for a fraction of the price of what your 15% discount will get you retail. So custom furniture is 100% the number 4 product with the best margin. Wow. Okay. So what if your client pushes back and says, can I just purchase the furniture on my own, right? Or maybe they just want to use their credit card to buy the furniture. I like to say, and here's how I would respond to this client question, because I know many of you are thinking like, that sounds nice, but what if my client says, no, I don't want to do that? So you've got a decision to make. If a client is pushing back, you can decide, are you the type of firm that is going to offer that option where, okay, you know what, we'll just design and specify, you go ahead and do the shopping? Or are you with the firm that's going to say, nope, come hell or high water, we have to supply everything. And if that doesn't work for you, we're not your firm. You have to decide if that's who you want to be. It's completely up to you. I used to say, oh yeah, you can absolutely purchase what you want. And that was my progression to getting where I am today. I did for many years allow clients to go out and buy something, or I would purchase as much as, as they felt comfortable with, but then they might say, you know what, I saw a dining table, I'm going to go buy it. Or if that's from Crate and Barrel, I'll just go buy that. And I did have that sort of system for a long time. In fact, I remember being on a phone call with a potential client who asked me if working with me meant that they couldn't buy anything and that I had to supply everything. And I thought it was the most ludicrous ask. I'm like, of course not. Are there designers telling you that? Like, how naive of me. I'm thinking like, who would want that? Meanwhile, all the luxury design firms in my city were doing that. And now I see why. But I still managed to have successful projects. I'm not telling you have to do it one way or the other, but you need to be clear on what you're comfortable with and what's going to work for you. So back to the question. If a client says, am I able to purchase some of the furniture on my own or maybe use my credit card to buy the furniture? Here's what we say. I would say at Rebecca Hay Designs, we purchase products, materials, and all the furnishings on behalf of our clients. This allows us to manage all of the moving parts and ensure that you're getting the exact product that works in the space. We work with trade partners who are wholesale, who go above and beyond for us with their customer service because we are their repeat clients. This is important, guys. Repeat clients. We've learned from experience that when a client purchases a product on their own, it can ultimately disrupt the entire process. It could potentially cost more money in our time coordinating at the end. We like to manage all of the moving pieces so that you don't have to. That is what our clients love about working with us. I always like to rephrase it as like, our clients like this thing about us, and the people who choose to work with us want this. It's almost like a little bit of a reverse psychology. And again, if someone says, can I use your trade discount or your designer discount, or do you pass on your discounts? This is what I would say. Our trade pricing is there for us as repeat clients. We've built relationships over the years with vendors, and as such, they often provide better pricing. The discount, air quotes, allows us to offer you an elevated experience. We don't share our discounts with clients as we found it's not a profitable business model. We're also able to handle surprises because it won't incur extra costs to the client. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide how you want to run your business and if you want to resell products to clients. I recommend that finding the items in your business that give you the best profit margin and honing in on those and making sure that you get to buy and sell those for your clients is going to increase your bottom line. It might be different for you. I've heard designers tell me tile because they get 30% off or they get 40% off at their tiler. Awesome. Specify and buy and sell all the tile all day long. I've heard other designers say, no, lighting. I get really great pricing on lighting. You need to look at what it is for you. The first time I did this exercise was at the end of the year. I pulled a profit report from Design Docs and I looked at it by vendor, and then you could also do by category. And it was very eye-opening. And I was able to see specifically not just the category like fabric and millwork, but I was able to see which specific vendors I'd given the most business to. Because then I can go to those vendors and say, hey, I noticed last year I brought you about $100,000 worth of business. Let's talk about getting me a little bit of a better price for next year, right? And then you have that as leverage. Okay. That was a preachy, coachy episode. I hope that you guys found that helpful. Let me know inside Designer Meetups. Of course, you can always find me there and you can share. Do you share your discounts or do you not? Did this episode help push you off the fence to make a decision? I would love to hear from you. And all I have to say is go forth and prosper. Okay. I don't know. I'll see you guys soon.